What's up? So this video is about something. Hold on, let me get it set up here. So this video is about the importance. I don't know. Hold on a second here. Okay. So this video is about the importance of prioritization and organization in general. It is a game changer. I could not do the things that I do without it. I don't know how. Yeah, it is just, for myself, it is one of the most important things. It is something that I'm particularly good at. I have a gift for it. So everybody has their gifts, right? But so one of mine is that I find that one of my gifts is that I don't seem to get overwhelmed with a big mess of things. When something is like big and complex and I need to deal with it and sort it out, I just find a place to start, and then I slowly start shifting things around and organizing them. And it takes time, but eventually the momentum builds, and then eventually things become coherent and make sense, and it becomes organized and usable, workable anyways. And so I'm not saying that it's easy, right? Just because some people, like for myself, it is a gift that I have. But so the reason, hold on, this thing always sings. So the reason why it is so important, and the reason, essentially the inspiration behind this video, we'll start with that. It is essentially that, so at the current moment, I am involved in a variety of things. I have a list of things that I prioritize so that and I review it consistently, if need be, on a daily basis. Like sometimes I will be focused on a task, and then there isn't a need for this so much, but then I find sometimes it's like I need to hyper focus, and then that's one thing. Like preparing to teach yoga and stuff like that, I really needed, that was my priority, so I really narrowed it down. But then once I that all of a sudden now I'm teaching yoga on a weekly basis, I don't have to put so much energy into it, and it's like, okay, right, so what do I need to focus on? What are the most important elements in my life that really need to be taken into account, essentially to not neglect something that is super important to me, something that is in my heart, something that is a dream, something that I'm passionate about, something that just means a lot to me. And so that's why I have it externally organized on a piece of paper. So that I never lose track of what those things are. And I mean, for myself, this exists in a variety of ways. As far as diet goes, I have a folder that has things like a food combining chart. It has my meal plans in it. It has the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. It has Bashar's 6 Principles for Perfect Health. It has a list of how to prepare certain things and recipes, and then even just meals that I like to eat, so that if I'm ever like, oh man, I'm tired of eating the same diet, I can always refer back to the list. It's like, oh yeah, I haven't made that for a long time. That's so good. And then start, and that's why having a meal plan helps too, because you factor all of your favorite meals into it, so that you're not eating too much of the same thing, so you don't get tired of stuff, and then you're always eating your favorite stuff. I mean, yeah, it takes a little bit of organization, but it is worth it for me. I mean, I am on this every single day, because it's like, oh right, what is this? Is this a good food pairing? Is it for nutrition? For nutrient absorption, and also just to do with what's it called? Digestion. You know, will these things combine well, or is this going to my body going to have to compromise as this stuff makes its way through my system, and then I'm not really going to derive all of the benefits that I could be from the food that I'm eating. I mean, I've made a video about this kind of stuff. I mean, it's Ayurvedic knowledge as well, which is the sister science to yoga. And yeah, it's anyways, so that's one thing. But yeah, it's like for myself right now, shifting focus. So yoga is something that I prioritize when I get up in the morning. It is essentially the first thing that I do is I practice yoga and then I meditate. To me, if I sleep on either of these things, I notice a difference in how I handle in my composition, meaning my energetic composition, my physical composition, my mental and emotional composition, in just how I am for that day. Because if I'm not taking the time, because I work a physically demanding job, and so then if I don't take the time to reverse some of the negative effects that come as a result of really putting a lot of stress on my body by doing certain movements repetitively for hours on end, you know, for 8 hours a day, I do hard manual labor. And so it's important. And even if you're sitting in a chair, because of how the body works and the muscles and this and that, like you can, like anything that you do over a long period of time that is repetitive, no matter how simple you might think it is, even like walking, if you don't know how to walk properly, you can, because it's something that is done, and certainly with yoga anyways. So that's why yoga, I almost never take a day off of practicing asana, stretching, the stretching element of yoga. It is crucial for me, and also to get better, because I like to be making steady progress, and then I can move on to other poses and whatnot, more advanced ones. And because like for myself, when I teach a yoga class, honestly, a big part of it is just the entertainment. I like to bring my own unique kind of cheeky, playful energy to the table and laugh, and also put on a show. I like to show people, be like, this is what you can strive towards, and turn yourself into a pretzel, or, you know, do things that they go like this and say like, holy cow. So that's important to me. And the meditation as well, because like a daily practice of practicing being calm, being mindful, slowing down, relaxing, being centered and grounded and fully present, and focused and concentrating, it has an effect on my life. Constantly, like mindfully, consciously practicing these things on a daily basis. And so therefore, but this is the thing, and this is sort of where this is a part of what I'm leading up to, is that the thing is, because these things are so important to me, I prioritize them above everything else. I put so much effort into them that other things may suffer as a result. And so it's still necessary to find balance amongst these things that you may be passionate about. And so, because for myself, yoga can take like at a minimum an hour in the morning, and then also Yeah, and then meditation about the same. And so that's 2 hours a day that are dedicated to this practice, but it's a maintenance routine. It's not, to me, it's not optional. Like putting gas in your car. It's not optional. If you want it, I mean, unless you have an electric car, good for you, right? But you still have to fill it up. It doesn't just run off nothing. So this is the thing. And so sometimes in life, I feel like you might struggle for time to do stuff. It's challenging to find the time in the day to devote some, to allocate a portion of that day to everything that's important to you, because you have so much time in the morning, and there are ways around this. It has to do with getting up earlier in the morning, but I mean, that is a process, and I've made a number of videos about it. Yeah, this is the thing, is that it can be challenging to find time, because then you do this stuff, and then, if you sleep in, and then you miss this or miss that, and then you go to work, and then you come home and you have something to eat, and then you feel tired because, depending on what you eat and how much you eat, it can really bog you down, and then you might not feel like doing anything but being a couch potato at that time. And so, but the thing is, it's like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, because if you want to get ahead in life, if you want to really move forward with haste, like quickly, if you want to see significant progress, you have to prioritize certain things, and there's essentially an order of operations. Just like practicing math, you have to schedule your day in a way so that you don't do certain things, because if you eat that big meal at night, you're probably not going to want, like, it doesn't make sense doing yoga after, and it doesn't make sense meditating after. So it's like everything has to be scheduled in a certain way. And so for myself, it's like, what has sort of dawned on me as a result of coming to a place where, okay, I'm fairly stable at the moment. So then at this point, it's like, okay, now what? Because I have a little bit of free energy to devote towards something that is very important to me. And so the thing is, it's like, I've come to realize that it's like my book. I've been writing it for about a dozen years now. But say in the last couple years, it's really fallen to the back burner because of all of this yoga stuff. It has been a huge endeavor that I have gotten myself into. And like, yeah, there's a lot that entails becoming a yoga instructor in my mind, because I'm not looking at being a good yoga instructor. I'm looking at being a great yoga instructor, and there is a difference. And like, yeah, anyways. And so, but now that that's chilled, it's just like, okay, my book, but it's just like, how do I find time for this? And it's just that you have to set a schedule where you allocate a certain portion of your day at a certain time without fail. Because if you don't, you run the risk of it not happening, and one day off turns into 2 days, turns into 3 days, turns into weeks, and then it becomes something that you're not familiar with, and it's not something that has momentum, the same momentum, that inertia that kind of comes from, like, say, meditating every day. The more you do it, the less you have to do it, because you're able to drop into a deeper state of meditation without because you don't have so much mind chatter going on. You're relatively stable, relatively calm. You have a peaceful mind going on. And so and it's like that with everything. It's like, say, I right now am learning how to play the guitar, and it does not require a lot. You can practice 10 minutes a day, and that's enough so that you don't get overwhelmed, and so that it keeps you hungry too. You're always like, okay, you want to get back to it, and maybe you can do a little more, but that's all that is really required to make steady progress and for it to be a part of your life. And it's the same thing with yoga. Maybe if you have the right routine, if you have a nice vinyasa flow, I can't say that it wouldn't be possible to do it for 10 minutes a day, just to get the muscles and the joints moving and things like that, and just activating and kind of opening things up. I mean, but every day. And the same thing with meditation. They say, there's a phrase, it's, if you don't have time to meditate for 10 minutes a day, you need to meditate for an hour. This is what is said, because it just shows that you're not in a place where you're handling things in the most efficient way. If you, it's like, oh, I don't have time. It's like, well, that's why. You need to get organized and prioritize and this kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, and if you don't take the time to do these things, then I think it wears on you. Because like for myself, if I have a passion for music, and if I'm not in some way, what do you call it? Like embracing this thing that clearly means a lot to me, then it weighs on me, and I feel kind of down about it, and I feel like, oh, I know I should be, but I'm not, and I wish I was. And you know, it's where excuses can come up, and just like, you know, be like, oh well. And anyways, so in order to avoid that, it's good to do stuff, right? Yeah, I mean, all of these things, I mean, everything else, I'm not going to go into my own personal list of things, but just saying how important it is to have such a thing, to prioritize, because, yeah, some things are important. And so I have another thing that I do as well. So I have a number of lists, physical lists that I can look at anytime. I have smaller lists that I use on a daily basis so that I can always cross things out and then rip them off and then start new ones. I have, this is more like a weekly list of things as I go through my week. This is like a daily list, just on a scrap piece of paper. It's like, well, this is what I'm going to accomplish today. I don't need a whole piece of paper. I don't need this little book, but I have this little scrap, and it's like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos that I'm going to make right now. And yeah, because it's just what I'm going through as a person. And it was funny, I actually reached a point where it's just like, wow, I made all of the videos that I needed to make, everything that I was inspired to make. And then I had a day, it was just like, wow, I don't feel inspired to make any videos. I guess I'll just, you know, I don't know what I'll do. And then all of a sudden, yeah, these ones came up. It's like, oh yeah, okay, cool, got stuff to make videos about. But another thing that is important to me, so I would say that procrastination comes as a result of not having a very clear understanding of 3 things. The first one is what I don't want to continue. Like, so for myself, I don't want to be living in a room in somebody else's house for the rest of my life. This is ridiculous. You know, I can do better than this, but right now it makes sense for whatever reasons, right? So what I don't want to continue. And then there is what I would like to happen. So I would like to have my own place so that I could just leave my juicer on the counter and have my blender not in my room, and, you know, like for it to be a bit of a, yeah, so I would like that. And then the other thing is what you need to do to get there. And in order to do that, essentially I need to take control more control over my financial situation, because that is the reason that I'm here. So identifying these things, not just sitting there pouting because I'm not happy about my current situation, but using the current situation as a catalyst. Be like, okay, well, I can do better than this, and I honestly think that I deserve better than this. I've been doing better than this at times in my life. I used to own my own place, and then this is how my cookie crumbled. But so then it's just kind of like, okay, well, anyways, no feeling sorry for the self, just moving forward, and then taking steps to start businesses. And that's what I have here. It's like, do not forget that come January, the beginning of the next fiscal year, it is important to say, buy a new computer, so that, because I'm going to be using it for everything, but I can write it off as a tax thing. And then also to do a continuing my yoga education, that entire trip. So this is trippy. It's like, that was, yeah, no pun intended, but like, it was a trip when I realized that it's like, next time that I go to New York for my yoga teacher training, the entire trip I can write off as a business expense. This is what I was saying about how empowering it is to start your own business, because and you just have to set yourself up in this way, and have a little bit of organizational skills, right? But I mean, and you have to be responsible, and you have to do it right, and pay your taxes and whatnot. But I mean, you're doing all that stuff anyways, or somebody else is doing it for you, and that's why they take all the money, and you get like, anyways. But yeah, that whole trip out there, it's like the flight, the hotel. So you could probably get a better seat on the flight, because it's like a business trip, and then instead of just economy, if you're writing it off and it makes sense, I mean, depending, not if it's like crazy money, right? But I mean, it's an idea that I'm certainly considering at the moment. That, yeah, it just changes everything. Imagine not sitting in economy class, have a little bit of room to spread your legs, and you get more pretzels or something like that, right? Whatever it is, it's probably better. Sure, you pay for it, but yeah, you can write that off to the flights, the hotel when you're there. Last time I stayed in this hostel, and it was a hostile environment. It was like the people weren't very friendly, and it's like I was on the very top floor, 5th floor, and it was smoking hot. All the heat in this place went up into the top. So everybody else down there, they're all chilling. I'm up here sweating my you-know-what off, and it was just like, it was not the best experience. So then I could write off the entire, so write off the flight, write off the hotel, write off the cost of the training itself, and write off the cost of my meals while I'm out there, because the whole trip is a business trip. So just like, otherwise, that is just something that, an expense that you have to absorb as an individual. Like I did this year, it cost me a ton of money, as well as all of the books that I had to buy, the materials and yoga mats and stuff like that. It's just like super in your best interests to set yourself up in a way that you're more in control of what's happening financially and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's why this is a big deal to me about priorities. And it's like, so the book isn't going to finish writing itself. I have to allocate a portion of time every single day so that it becomes a thing. And especially on weekends, it's like, I can do this. I think that I have the experience now. I was very close to finishing, but then life brought me back here, and I had to work and all this stuff, right? But yeah, and the same thing with lots of things. And so another one, along the same lines, whenever I find myself in a pickle, for what it's worth, it's like, okay, how do I get ahead? I will have these, I get sometimes like pieces of paper like this, and I write things, and it's just as motivational for myself. This one's called "Where You At, Son?" because I like hip hop. It's kind of like a, where you at, son? And it's like, just these things, it's like these things that I know that I gotta do, that I want to do, that I'm tired of not paying attention to, that I'm tired of losing track of. Because if you don't have something like a list that is like, what do they say? The weakest ink is stronger than the strongest memory. Even if it's super weak, it's like, there, you can see it. But when you forget something, it's just like, I can't remember. I forget that detail. I don't remember what was I going to do, what was I going to say, what was I going to think, and you can miss on stuff. But so, like, this is from a couple years ago. I wrote this when I was in Mexico, and it's like, I eat proper meals instead of snacking. I am transitioning to a raw food diet to see if it makes a significant improvement in my overall health. I'm going to stop treating food as a drug, as a pastime, or eating for pleasure. I'm waiting till afternoon to start eating every day. I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm going to continue watching certain educational things, or like, and to me, I've made so many of these things at different times in my life. Some of them have worked their ways into other things that I've written, and but it's just, I just find that it's very good to keep this kind of stuff available, right? Because if it's just all up in here, it's not necessarily super easy to access when you're in a time of need. And so I think that's it. Honestly, I don't need to go on about anything else. I already said about this stuff. Externalizing stuff, all the lists, and condensing lists, and I have a master list on my computer which has all these different categories, and it's things that I want to say, for example, one of them is things I like to eat. I have a list of every single thing that I can have ever thought of that I like to eat. I made a list of them so that I can always reference them, both raw and cooked. There's a raw food menu and a cooked food menu. And also, say just things that I want to buy. There are things that I have seen and be like, oh man, I wish I had that thing, or I feel like that thing would be very useful for myself. And so I have a list of them. And it's just really helps, because what is it? There's a thing called, I've made a video about this. It's called the Zigneric effect, where it's like, if you you only have so much space going on up here, and if there are things that you need to do but you don't write them down, then they're going on up here, and it takes up memory space, like processing power, just like a computer, but it also, you might lose some of them in the process. But if you just write them down, then on a level that you don't need to remember these things. And the more organized your notes are, then you can reference this stuff and then come back to it anytime, and it's like, okay, right, don't forget that. Oh, right, remember, do push-ups when you're writing. Every half an hour, drop down and do like a dozen push-ups, or drink water first thing in the morning. Not tea, not coffee, not juice, not any water, just straight water, and on and on and on. But yeah, I really believe that priorities and prioritizing what is important to you it's the way forward. It is how you will make significant progress in the shortest period of time. Yeah.